You exposed, ponies? You exposed. You know you got no games, you begging for Xbox pose. You exposed, ponies? You exposed. No, you ain't got no game, you begging for Xbox pose. They coping, they seething, they begging and pleading. Please, Microsoft, give me some of your games. They coping and seething, they begging and pleading. I ain't got no games, what the heck I'm gonna be playing?
What's up, Game Boys and Girls? Big T here, back with another video, and we're going to talk about the state of gaming, um, uh, particularly the top three, the big dogs, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. I will have to say that 2023 was a pretty tough year for Sony. I won't say tough. Uh, in particular, Sony first party. Yeah, they still had some third party exclusives like what was it, Forspoken, and what the Final Fantasy, what is it now, 16? Sony, Square Enix holding it down for Sony, which has kind of been a historical thing, or a thing in history, I should say. But yeah, they're still doing it again. And as far as first party goes for Sony, like their first party studios, they only had Spider-Man. I guess you can call Horizon Call of the Wild or something like that. The VR game. Oh, speaking of VR, so let's go ahead and get into it. Like they had a lot of L's, I would say Sony did in 23. Forspoken did not perform well in sales or on the console. It had some stuttery issues, some resolution issues, and all kinds of stuff. And the game just didn't hit well with gamers. And then you had, speaking of Call of the Wild, you had the PSVR 2 come out. And for me, that was already an L because it wasn't backwards compatible with the games I already had. The 30 something games I have for VR. I think I have around 30, 31, somewhere around there. VR games that I accumulated on the PS4, and they're not usable at all. And so the game or the system came out, it was expensive, but actually for the tech, it was pretty cheap, I thought. It was a good price for the tech, but obviously you need a PlayStation 5. You don't have one, that's another $500. So it's over $1,000 just to get started before you have a game. But it clearly did not perform well. If it did, Sony would have been all over the place talking about it. I think it's around, last time I saw it was around 200,000 sold. And let's continue on with the VR stuff. When you talk about the studio, I can't think of their name, who made Firewatch, which is a game I liked a lot on PSVR. I played the original one, and then the second one came out and it just did not do well. Nobody cared because there's not enough PSVRs 2s out there. When you lock stuff behind new hardware, and you don't allow your newer hardware to play the old games, you're going to have issues like this. And I think that's one of the reasons Firewatch 2 didn't do as well, because it just didn't have enough people to play it. It wasn't on, from what I remember, it's not on PSVR, the original. I haven't really paid attention, but I don't think it is. I think it's only on PSVR 2. And then, the games on PSVR did not perform well. So that is a dud. You had them canceling Insomniac, canceling the Last of Us Online, or Last of Us Factions, people call it. They've been wasting all these years making this game and telling people it's coming, and then they just get it pulled. I think that was probably a Sony move. You heard the rumblings from Bungie, the rumors that they said the game wasn't up to par, basically, and eventually it got pulled. So maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. So that's another L. And you have layoffs from Insomniac, which is the studio you should not be laying off, because they are the ones who are holding it down for Sony PlayStation 5, especially with Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2. You got Wolverine coming up and all. Like, what? Why are you messing with those guys? So they've lost some people. I believe Naughty Dog as well. There's been layoffs. Obviously, the studio that made Firewatch is gone, basically, at the end of the year, 23. So, you have the the 007 controversy when it comes to Spider-Man, where it got zero awards, zero acclamations, or something like that, and 7 nominations. And it was a whole 007 meme. Kind of funny. It was pretty funny. And obviously, speaking of kind of funny, you have the Insomniac leaks, which was a disaster of epic proportions. I don't know why Sony can't seem to get it together. Seems like I'm talking about Sony, but I'll get to the other guys eventually. But yeah, it's just like not good. And that was basically how they closed the year out. And yeah, obviously there's the talks about behind the scenes stuff about how much games are costing them. $300 million for Spider-Man 2. How much they're costing, and the games are not getting, they're not selling as well. They're not selling well enough, I should say, for those budgets. So there's all kinds of cuts. We've seen, paperwork from the leak and whatnot. They're continuing. They have plans to cut more. They're just not making enough for what they're spending. And that's pretty much always been an issue for Sony. Maybe during the PS4 era, not. But every other era, they spent a lot to get where they are. They bought their way to the top. And it worked out for them as far as mind share and market share. But not so much money share. But so not a good year overall. There's some good highlights here and there, but not a great year for Sony. And honestly, 2024 doesn't look much better as far as their what do they call it? What's coming? Their blueprint. There's another word I'm looking for, but as far as the roadmap doesn't look that great from my perspective anyway, for what's going on with Sony. Nintendo had a fabulous year, put out a lot of great first party stuff. You had obviously you had Tears of the Kingdom, which did very well, and scored very well, sold tremendously well. You had Pikmin 4. You had WarioWare games. Nintendo dropped bangers. You had Fire Emblem like in January. You had just a plethora of games, first party stuff too from Nintendo. And 2024, while slowing down a bit, we all believe that Switch 2 is coming this year, so that's big. But they've got some pretty good games as well for 2024. 23 for Xbox was a turnaround year, and you can really tell that based on the competition, or at least the competition's fan base, the Sony fan base. They were scratching and clawing, trying to make it not happen. Basically, obviously Redfall was a dud. Came out, was a dud, and we heard about the behind the scenes with that game. How the studio didn't really even want to make it. It was a live service-ish type of game, or co-op game at first, live service type of game, and then they, changed direction, and they just had no. Seems like there was no energy behind it. The team that was making it, and obviously it came out in the state it came out. But earlier they had Microsoft had Minecraft Legends. They had. What's the game? I feel like there was another game before that, but I can't remember. But just like Game Pass was stellar, amazing. You had, great day and date drops like Wolong, Liza P. I can't even remember all of them. I'm still playing a lot of them. So there was a lot of great Game Pass games, and then you get obviously Starfield, which I love, and I'm gonna do a review pretty soon. and a lot of people put a lot of hours into on Steam, and for whatever reason they don't recommend it. When you put 800 hours in a game and you give it a thumbs down, that's really suspect. When you put 50 hours in a game, 40 hours in a game, and you give it a thumbs down, why spend that much of your time in a game that you wouldn't recommend? It's odd, and I don't understand that. But it is what it is. The guys on the other side who were hoping up until probably early in the year, 23, that it was going to be a timed exclusive or something, and Microsoft pretty much shut that down. Ever since then, they really went on this campaign. I call it Starfield derangement syndrome. They went on this campaign to destroy the game, to bring it down. I think the Metacritic is at 84, somewhere around there, 83. It was a lot higher when it first started off, but that kind of happens and the score drops. I said it would probably end up around 85. I was not too far off, a point or two off. It is where I thought it would be. The game itself is what I expected it to be, what I wanted it to be. The game itself is that, and so it's not an amazing game, but it is a really good game, I think, and most of the scores reflect that. I don't know what's going on Steam. But also at the same time on Steam it won Best Innovative Game, which people were saying that's probably like a popularity thing. It was just the most popular game or most well-known game in the category, so people picked that. And there are a lot of fans of the game. Obviously 90,000 people gave it a positive review on Steam. 90,000. So obviously a lot of people like it. I think it's around 40,000 that gave it a mixed or bad or not recommended review. So there's that. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's weird. But yeah, so that was definitely the turnaround year, because for years it's like, when is Microsoft going to get it together? When are these studios they acquired going to start bringing out content? Well, it's happening. It started happening last year. I forgot Forza Motorsport, which is awesome. I went out and bought a freaking a steering wheel. What do you call it? Logitech G steering wheel, which gives you like force. It gives you feedback. The wheel turns. So you get interaction like you would with a real car in some aspects. It came with the pedals and all that good stuff. It came with the clutch and the gear shift. It's great. So really good year for Microsoft going towards the end. And then they got Baldur's Gate Shadow Drop basically at the Game Awards. It was kind of weird mix up with that, but the game did come out and then obviously did really well, because Larian Studios gave a shout to the fans for supporting it. So that's good. I'm going to get it eventually. I just got too much right now on my plate. But yeah, so really good year. This year it's looking even better. Like I said, I already talked about Nintendo and the prospects. Microsoft, they're having a showcase pretty soon on the 18th. They're showing Indiana Jones, which I'm really excited to see. They're showing more for Avowed. They're going to do a kind of a deep dive into that, as well as Indiana Jones. Also, a deeper dive into Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, which is fantastic. And people are, speculating that it will come out this year as far as Indiana Jones. Everything else is supposed to come out. Avowed, Senua's Saga is supposed to come out. I am missing a couple games, and I don't know why I can't think of them right now. I'm missing more than a couple games. Microsoft is dropping a lot of stuff. The heat is coming from Microsoft and Nintendo this year. Not so much Sony. Maybe they'll have a showcase. They were supposed to have a super secret one last year, according to a lot of fans. That did not happen, mostly because the fans were not impressed with the showcase that they got. So they think, oh, that's not the real showcase. The real one's coming. Not quite. Didn't turn out that way, but we'll see what happens in the future. Yeah, it's Sony's is transitioning. PlayStation's transitioning. We saw more leaked documents from them, real documents, showing that they're basically going to do what Microsoft is doing right now, what Microsoft has been doing since 2017, which is focusing a lot on PC, make sure their games are over there, basically creating their own app for PlayStation. What is it now? PS Plus. I don't know what it's called. PS Plus, I think. So they're basically going to make PS Plus what Game Pass is, where it's on PC, it's on mobile devices, it's on smart TVs. They're playing catch up, and they're realizing that their fan base does not buy their first party games enough. I think it's like 8 to 10% of their hardware sell through that fans actually buy the first party stuff. That's not nearly enough, especially when you're spending $200-300 million on a budget for a game. That blows away most movies that come out. That blows away probably 95% of movies that come out in a year. $300 million. The biggest Hollywood blockbusters cost $250 for the most part, most of the time. $300 million for a video game budget, that is reckless and it's unsustainable. And Sony is figuring it out, a little late, but they're figuring it out. So they're playing catch up, and it's going to be a few years, guys, a couple years or so before they get their stuff back together. They need to get their stuff back together because you don't want any one guy controlling the narrative in gaming, controlling the market. So Microsoft needs Sony to be strong. Sony needs Microsoft to be strong. We need it because we need them to compete with each other so we can get better deals, better games, all that stuff, etc. Game Pass is a result of the fact that Microsoft got their behind spanked by Sony for the last 10 years. And they had to do something. And that is good for the industry. It's good for gamers, consumers, to be able to have the best deal in gaming. It really is. What the stuff that's coming for Xbox, especially day one on Game Pass, is amazing. Barring their first party stuff even. So I'm looking forward to the year. It's going to be a great gaming year, at least for Microsoft and Nintendo. I don't know, Sony. It looked kind of spooky over there. But yeah, a strong Nintendo going into another console that is fantastic. That's what we want. Microsoft finally hitting their stride. That's what we want as gamers. Great competition, great value, and I'm all for it. So, yep, that's my video. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you excited for Switch 2? I am. I'm looking forward to it. There's rumors coming out daily about the console. I'll talk about what I'm expecting. Maybe a little bit of rumor stuff, what I think about some of the rumors, will I believe them or not. But yeah, I look forward to that. Make sure you hit the like button if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're hanging in the wings, help a brother out. I am trying to do more videos, but I need more time. And so to have more time, I need more subscribers. I need you guys to support the channel a lot more. And I'll be able to do a lot more. And I'll be able to take time away from the daily job. And I work a lot. I work a lot of hours. And maybe I can take away some of those hours if the channel was doing better. So make sure you support. Thank you again for watching, listening. And now, see you fools next time. Peace out.
You exposed, ponies? You exposed. You know you got no games, you begging for Xbox poles. You exposed, ponies? You exposed. No, you ain't got no game, you begging for Xbox poles. They coping, they seething, they begging and pleading. Please, Microsoft, give me some